Hello and welcome to What's Next. It's the Indy NXT Oval Series here from the Iowa Speedway, and it's modern scan here on the iRacing service just from a couple seasons ago. This was the site of the very first Indy NXT Oval Series event here in the Indy NXT Oval Series. And we're back here once again on this modern configuration of the Iowa Speedway, of course, kind of repaved on the lower lanes of the track, and that plays a big factor at a track here like Iowa, Sophie.
Yes, this took a track that on the older configuration that you saw just a few minutes ago with the race wrapping up for the Indy Oval Fix Series. You can see people going all the way to the wall as a viable lane. Well, as here, it's going to be where you see that dark tarmac. And so the lanes that are viable are a lot narrower, and that really makes passing a little bit more difficult. And it's ultimately going to be about who can get it done in qualifying right here, right now.
Yeah, we'll actually get to drivers working their way through qualifying here now. Right out with one. Actually, we're going to start off with one Luca Tedesco. We'll get him on the screen once I can figure out where I am here. There we go. We'll ride out with Luca as he proceeds around the track here from Iowa. There's the driver of the number 9 machine tonight. Get those numbers up on the screen here. There's Luca. He's working his way through turns 3 and 4 for his first of 2 laps here tonight. Dylan Vilashinsky will shoot himself to the pole with a 19.250. See where Luca's able to slot in here. 20.543 for him.
Yeah, the second lap should be the faster lap here. Luca didn't quite get all the way down to the white line that first lap, and again, not quite able to do it here. Dylan Vilashinsky goes even faster this time, and Luca Tedesco does improve on his time, but I don't see an improvement in his starting position.
Does not appear so. We've got pretty considerable amount of the field left to take time, so we'll keep circulating with Luca here around the 7/8 mile Iowa Speedway. You see it's kind of repaved from the lower lanes to the upper lane on exit, and I think it was rather comedic. We saw in the B-roll footage here that they actually repaved the Legends Oval on the front stretch here as well. Just the kind of infield portion of it, so I'm wondering if maybe some of that was to do with potential some wreck issues if cars spin off of turn 4 and end up in the infield grass. They didn't want drivers maybe popping up over the lip of some of the asphalt there, but Luca continues to circulate. We'll hop out with Andre Castro, the winner of the inaugural event here on the channel for this series. Of course, he wound up winning the event from Long Beach last night, defending his crown in Indy NXT Road Series competition from the streets there. He'll be looking to try to do the same here in the Oval Series as he gets underway here for 2 laps of qualifying here from the Iowa Speedway.
Yeah, one of the things I was hearing from Indy Kirchenbauer before the race was that in qualifying, the car is particularly loose on entry, and that might be scaring some of these drivers. As Castro currently working on his first lap. He doesn't go all the way to the bottom, but again, that first lap is going to be your slower lap, so you might as well use it to build momentum through 3 and 4 as you now kind of get it into the money lap.
Yeah, here he
Castro
comes.
really hitting the white line through 1 and 2 there.
And he'll come off turn 4, off turn 2 rather, head into 3 and 4. Try to get as low as he can. You can see how much he's having to fight the wheel off the corner. He'll aim all the way to the white line on the front stretch there, and he'll set a time good enough for second here. 19.285 for the driver of the number 1 machine. That'll put the 2 and the 1 cars in reverse order on the front row. We've got a lot of drivers fairly close together as the top 7 down to Taylor Thurman. His fan club, the Tay Fosi, is out in force once again. He'll roll off 7th within 1/10 of that pole speed, or pole time rather, here from Iowa. We've got a little under a minute left to go here in qualifying. Got the likes of Ellis Spice and John Covington needing yet to take a time here in qualifying. We'll see if they opt to do so or not. But this track's going to be very tricky. It's been home to a rather interesting couple of finishes here in the Indy NXT Oval Series. Of course, last season on the, historic Legacy 2011 scan, I believe we called it Olevoa in the Indy or the Road to Indy communities. TNT guys kind of coined that one as we were looking for another one to do the little Phoenix bit with, but that put on a great battle between the likes of Indy Kirchenbauer and Ryan A. Brown. Brown picking up his first win in the series with that one. So certainly been a home to a solid slew of races here so far. We'll see if this one puts up another wonderful clash in the cornfields here in Iowa.
Yes, as we're now going to get underway shortly, the field's going to start gridding up as qualifying comes to a close here at Iowa. Again, a reminder, mainly because it came up last week, obviously at 5 Flags with the tire wear. There is no additional sets of tires for any of these drivers. So for these 65 laps, they only get 1 set of Firestones. That's the one that are bolted onto the car when they grid up.
We'll get those drivers gridding up now, run you through the starting lineup here. We do get 2 pace laps, so that gives us a bit of leeway here, but we want to get through it as quickly as we can, and it'll be Dylan Vilashinsky, familiar sight, familiar name, familiar car here on the pole with a 19.250. Alongside him will be last night's winner from the Indy NXT Road Series and defending race winner here from the current Iowa Speedway, and Andre Castro. In the second row will be Jesse Francisco. He's been putting up some solid performances so far this season in the Indy NXT Oval Series. We'll hope he can put together another one here from row number 2. Chris Wetz in the number 6 machine. He'll line up in 4th. Indy Kirchenbauer will line up on the inside in 5th. Ashton Metters will roll off 6th. He's been putting up some sizable results here so far this season. Taylor Thurman will line up 7th in the 18 car alongside Sam Cosner for Votive Racing. Ryan A. Brown will be looking to defend an Iowa win here himself from last season. Clay Kirchenbauer will line up in the 10th spot. We move our way further down. We have reigning Junior Open Wheel Oval Series champ David Powers in that number 5 machine in 11th. Giovanni Blackerby will be looking for a rebound after a tough race from Long Beach last night. Clay Holman makes another appearance after showing up from the Oswego round last week. He's back here once again in the 21 machine. Kelly Dahl will line up 14th in the 12 in that player's livery. Casey Lee occupies car number 17 tonight and will roll off 15th. Kevin Crotty will roll off 16th ahead of the row of Luca Tedesco and Gary Yost. Gary, I think, came off a win here earlier on tonight in the second split from the old Iowa configuration. And then we move down to Jamison Russell, last car to take a time in 19th. Ellis Spice will round out the top 20, and then John Covington will round out the field in that Ghost Energy machine in the 20 car.
Yeah, we have another pace lap here. Lights out on the generic iRacing sedan here. A thing to note that happened last time we were at Iowa, granted this was the older scan, Dylan Vilashinsky had a race to forget as he spun on the opening lap, along with a few other drivers struggling due to the cold tires that everyone's going to be contesting with here. So those first couple of laps, Jacob, I imagine are going to be very treacherous. But once they get heat into those Firestones, it should be a lot more smooth sailing for the drivers of these Indy NXT machinery.
Yeah, I've seen Dylan putting in some extra practice in prior to this one, likely trying to get comfortable to this car on those cold tires. He's on the front row, so hopefully he can keep his car in the point of the right direction. We might be in for trouble here as the field will get led off turn number 4. Get him control of the field. Vilashinsky will go as he pleases, and that is now. Green flag in the air from Iowa.
Yes, and Andre Castro immediately tucks in behind to cut off Jesse Francisco in third for maybe mounting a charge for that position. Yeah. As a parade of color just streaks down the backstretch here at Iowa.
And Chris Wetz is going to... Oh!
Wetz is in the wall!
Yeah, just as we were going to highlight him falling a couple spots back, he'll go into the wall. No yellow out yet. He's having all sorts of issues as that machine's now on 3 wheels. He'll tow. We'll move back to the battle at the front. No caution.
Kind of amazed there's no caution there, but...
Yeah, he was fortunately able to get that car at least off the track quickly enough. If we look back, 3 wide, working between Brown, Kirchenbauer, and Blackerby for the 8th spot. Closest battle on the course as it stands between these 3 here back in the lower portions of the top 10.
Jesse Francisco goes purple. third place Jesse Francisco in purple.
Yeah, and that is something we've seen play a bit of a factor as Blackerby will jump to the bottom 3 wide here. Oh, close call between Brown and Clay Kirchenbauer on the high side. Clay holds onto it. It'll move Brown up a spot. Brown will be looking on Blackerby as Kirchenbauer will have David Powers to his inside now. And I was going to mention that we've seen kind of cars, a couple cars back, be able to get some pretty significant draft around here at Iowa and be able to roll themselves into lead competition battles relatively quickly. Kirchenbauer is going to make contact with the wall here.
Yeah, and Francisco is currently lurking on the underside of Andre Castro there through 3 and 4. Was not able to get the move done and is having to reset, but he has Indy Kirchenbauer, the prodigy, just behind him, and Kirchenbauer has snatched the fast lap away from Francisco.
Yeah, they've worked back out single file in the bottom portion of the top 5 here. You see Metters off in the distance behind this train of 3 cars. This is kind of the battle for the lower steps of the podium as Vilashinsky has gotten out to about a half-second lead. Yellow is out.
Yellow flag.
Jamison Russell involved. Looks like he's the only car in the wall. We'll see what happened to him. So here they come into turns 1 and 2. There's going to be a yellow and black machine, Nikon sponsored on the inside there.
That's Kevin Karate.
Yeah, Karate that was very bizarre. I'm not sure if maybe Kevin got loose on entry there. We'll try to run that back maybe from his onboard, but that'll shoot Russell into the outside wall. See if we can look on board with Kevin Karate here as they head off turn number 4 here. So he's working the inside lane off the corner here.
It doesn't look like he was loose to me, Jacob. It just looks like he wanted to take a much higher line. And the problem with doing that is when you have a car on your outside is they also have to turn down here and you have to be on that black tarmac. So that's one of those moves where some people might not be too pleased with you doing that. But that is a danger with going on the high side here at the New Scan of Iowa.
Yeah, it looks like he maybe has a little bit of a bobble of the steering wheel straight before he actually turns in for the corner. That's possible him trying to set that entry up, but ultimately that's going to shoot Jamison Russell into the outside wall, end his night, and put us under the first yellow flag here tonight. We've only gotten in about 8 laps here as we're working lap number 9. Vilashinsky's led them all so far. We know he's good on restarts, and hopefully he's gotten enough heat in those tires to make those restarts just that little bit easier for him. Run you through the rest of the top 10 here is Castro, Francisco, Indy Kirchenbauer, Ashton Metters, Sam Cosner, and the other Votive Racing entry tonight, or actually one of 3, I believe, in the field tonight. Giovanni Blackerby runs in 8th ahead of last season's Iowa winner on the old scan, Ryan A. Brown. And Clay Kirchenbauer, the last of the 3 Votive entries, runs in the 10th spot. And then you've got the likes of David Powers, Kelly Dahl, Clay Holman, Kevin Crotty, Luca Tedesco, Casey Lee, Gary Yost, John Covington, and Ellis Spice round out tonight's lead lap runners.
And Spice is going to duck down the pit lane. I don't see any damage on his machine, and don't really see any.
Yeah, we'll see. It looks like he just stops and goes. And the driver of the 11 machine, he'll head out the pit lane. We'll move back to the front of the field here as the lights are still on the iRacing pace car. It means we'll get another lap behind it. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight from the Iowa Speedway. Of course, we've got additional coverage going on of the Area 51 INDYCAR Series. They're taking on Richmond tonight. So Iowa's actually the biggest track we're showcasing on the channel tonight at 7/8 compared to that 3/4 mile from Richmond, Virginia. Tomorrow night, we'll have the Horizon INDYCAR Series from Homestead. That'll be 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thursday night will be the AMA Grand National Series from Kansas. Mark Murphy on the call for that, 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time. Saturday will be the INDYCAR iRacing Series from Long Beach, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And Sunday will be the Dark Horse DW12 Series, their 6th round of Season 9 from Texas, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And we'll be back Monday night with continued coverage of INDYCAR and Indy NXT official series action. We'll thank Whiplash Simcams for providing cameras tonight. And we'll get back underway here as the field gets led into turns 3 and 4 by the iRacing Genericus pace car. And we'll see what Dylan Vilashinsky does on this restart here.
Yeah, Dylan Vilashinsky all lined up against the wall because the only legal way to pass before the start-finish line on a restart is to the outside. So everyone's lined up against that outside wall. He is waiting to launch. He goes now, and green flag is in the air.
Yeah,
Gets a decent enough launch to get a little bit of a gap.
Yeah, a little bit of a gap, and they all kind of drop off the outside wall as soon as they get underway. You saw Castro follow Vilashinsky. You saw Francisco, and now Kirchenbauer will take that spot from Francisco, move Kirchenbauer up to the third spot. Ashton Metters is going to look to the inside of Francisco, not the restart that he was looking for maybe.
No, it's so difficult to restart one of these machines because first gear is not particularly usable. The engine's surprisingly torquey, and it's so easy to get wheel spin. As we see Castro now challenging Vilashinsky a little bit through 3 and 4.
Yeah, you can get that toe if you're close enough here, and Castro's using it to his advantage. He's going to run high in 1 and 2 here. Kirchenbauer of the Indy variety will go purple with a 19.015, so he's picking up some steam in the third spot. That might make his run advantageous if he can get another stab at it here, as he'll slowly start to creep into the picture here.
Oh, big trouble up at 4!
Looks like Ryan Brown, Kelly Dahl.
Dahl is already towed, I believe.
Brown's got a meatball flag, potentially suspension damage on that IL-15 for him. We'll get a look back at it and see if we can find out what happened to these drivers here, as that's already him around. So they're heading into turns 3 and 4 here. We've got Clay Kirchenbauer looking to the inside. Oh, it looks like, yeah, Ryan A. Brown just gets to that outside lane where the tarmac's not repaved, and he is sideways, and Dahl just kind of on his lane gets gets the front end of that IL-15 of Ryan A. Brown, and that'll shoot Dahl up into the outside wall, and that'll end his night as well as likely Ryan A. Brown's, given the potential suspension damage that's sustained on that 14 machine.
Yeah, that is kind of a typical Iowa new scan moment there. You really cannot use that top lane, and already, as mentioned earlier, Indy Kirchenbauer, before the broadcast, told both of us, Jacob, about how loose this car is on entry. So you have a car that's already loose on entry, and then you try to enter in on a part of a track that just doesn't have the grip and probably has a lot of marbles on it to begin with. And so that's just a recipe for that kind of lazy spin he was going on, and unfortunately for Kelly Dahl, just wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, just nowhere to go for the driver of the 12 machine, rather, as that'll take another 2 cars out of this event. We've got 17 still circulating. 4 have gone down the pit lane with damage. That'll be Ryan A. Brown, Kelly Dahl, Jamison Russell, and Chris Wetz. Wetz hasn't gotten out of his car just yet. He's maybe looking to take advantage of some of these incidents that have happened post his. Maybe if he can get back out there, log a couple laps, gain a couple spots, try to heal the potential iRating damage for him. As we're going to get one more lap behind the iRacing pace car, I do believe. And then we'll get back under green once again, just a little past the quarter-way mark here from the Iowa Speedway.
Yeah, all of this caution laps, though, is doing some interesting things to these tires. It's not really so much a worry about getting a meatball like at 5 flags. Instead, you're just going to be heat cycling these tires, and so they're going to be a little colder than what you would expect, but still fairly warm, Jacob, so should be able to go on and get some good green flag running in shortly.
Yeah, we've seen kind of if a long green flag run can materialize here at Iowa, and it will make some of the battles a bit more interesting as people start to kind of wear these Firestone tires out. The banking here plays a pretty sizable factor into that, just as we kind of saw last week at 5 flags, just how much you're really loading the car up in the corners. That's why the cold tires, why some of the outer lanes of this track just aren't that usable with the way this car handles, because you're just putting the car under such a heavy load. The rear tire is really the main thing holding it into the track, that right rear in particular. And if you overload that thing just a little bit too much, that thing will go around in a hurry, Sophie.
Yes, and that's kind of what we were seeing there with Ryan Brown. Brown did a good job to just not let it go around completely and put it into the wall. Unfortunately, just again had Kelly Dahl coming through with the head of steam and just flipped both cars, and both cars out of the wall and done. They have disconnected from the server. Lights are now out on the pace car, Jacob. So once again, we will be back underway here at the Iowa Speedway.
Yeah, Vilashinsky will get control of the field once again as we work our way down the backstretch here from Iowa. Interesting to see what Vilashinsky does this time. He tends to kind of catch us out each and every time he does a restart here in the Indy NXT Oval Series. We'll see what he opts to do this go around. I'll head off turn number 4 here. Vilashinsky launches nice and early. Green flag in the air. He's going to tuck all the way to the bottom. He'll have Castro in tow behind him. Kirchenbauer will try his best.
And Taylor Thurman was looking on the high side for a move there. Doesn't get it done. And I believe that was Metters.
That's going to be Ashton Metters in the 5th spot. You got Sam Cosner, Giovanni Blackerby going at it for 7th, 8th, and then Clay Kirchenbauer back down in 9th. David Powers has worked his way into the top 10 with the attrition here early. We'll see if he's able to work some forward momentum in that number 5 machine. Andre Castro, though, this is the closest I think we've seen him so far tonight to Dylan Vilashinsky, as that gap sits just under 2/10 now.
Yeah, the top 5 just spread them all under a blanket there as Indy Kirchenbauer is just kind of watching that while also having to watch his mirror because Jesse Francisco is there, and right behind Francisco is Ashton Metters, who's someone, again, all 5 of these competitors have been very quick. It's Indy Kirchenbauer is looking for a move on the inside of Castro, and Metters is on the inside of Francisco.
Yeah, we saw Castro almost make contact with Vilashinsky's. They're almost going to make contact between Indy and Andre, and Francisco's got to check up. That'll let Taylor Thurman to the inside. And I was kind of noting there as Castro almost got in the back of Vilashinsky that lap prior there. And now Indy's going to look for the lead here.
Yeah, that was some aggressive maneuvers by Indy, but he's now got himself where he's challenging for the lead on Dylan Vilashinsky. Vilashinsky's running way up high there into the corner. Indy tucks it low, gives Vilashinsky the space. And now he has the lead, but Vilashinsky's challenging back on the low side.
Yeah, the thing we've kind of seen with this Iowa Speedway, particularly in this iteration, is how you're kind of having to work a bit of side draft, a bit of drop off the top, get the run off down the backstretch in particular. It's kind of similar to how we saw Motegi earlier on this season, where drivers are having to potentially use multiple cars to generate runs ahead of them. As we see Ashton Metters get back into this fight right off the gearbox of Indy Kirchenbauer in the 2nd spot.
Yeah, in the IndyCar, this is obviously considered a short oval, but on a car like the Indy NXT, it's a much larger oval. It's actually much bigger than a lot of the ones that we've come from, like Oswego and Five Flags, Jacob.
Yeah, of course, the Indy NXT in the real world, their biggest track on the season is the Nashville Super Speedway, and that's only 1.33 miles. They don't get a likes of an Indianapolis anymore. They haven't since 2019. But this is going to be one of those things that when we see a track like this, the banking, we talk about the banking every time we come to one of these tracks that has a good bit of it, and it's just a different ball game for these cars as they tend to do a lot of balance on the tires rather than potentially the aerodynamics strictly, and that makes it where, especially as you watch this race, the cars are able to navigate much closer together. The effects of dirty air very negated in these IL-15s as Kirchenbauer will look to the bottom in 1 and 2.
Yeah, he has been setting that run up, but Vilashinsky just kind of immediately cuts down low and just gets back underneath Indy. He doesn't seem to be all that worried about that move Kirchenbauer does into 1. He seems more concerned about what Indy is doing into 3 and 4, and that's why he's cutting underneath and immediately getting the bottom. So perhaps Indy can't protect the bottom once he makes the move, and that's allowing Vilashinsky to immediately make the move back.
Yeah, I think the big thing is he's maybe scrubbing off a good bit of momentum as Castro and Francisco make contact. They'll stay pointed in the right direction, but we'll see if they have damage on one of those machines as Castro will run up high off a 2. He'll be in the crosshairs of Sam Cosner in that 6th spot. Cosner will look to the outside. Andre Castro's going backwards in a hurry. He might have more going on with that IL-15 than the initial contact looked. He's trying to fend off Clay Kirchenbauer on the high side there.
Yes, I don't see any damage on. I just see a little crumpled on the front wing, a little crumple on the nose cone. So damage front wing for Castro. And that would explain the pace suddenly going away from him. Hopefully, I don't want to curse anyone else, but hopefully there's a caution soon. He can maybe get that machine fixed and make up some of the spots that he's now losing.
Yeah, he's
Let's focus the battle back up front as Indy Kirchenbauer currently holding the inside of Dylan Wilesinski, maybe possibly taking the lead as now Wilesinski looks back on the inside into 3 and 4.
He'll get tight on the bottom there. Indy will hold the momentum on the outside lane. Castro's fallen down to 10th, so he'll have to get something to get his car bounded back up forward towards the front of the field here. Started on the front row, not looking like he's going to convert that into another win here from the Iowa Speedway as we reach a little bit past the halfway mark now. Battle continues to rage at the front between Kirchenbauer and Wilesinski. Ashton Metters and Jesse Francisco are right there, and let's give a shout out to Sam Cosner. I think this might be the first time we've seen him in the Indy NXT machine here on the channel, and he's cruising along in that 5th spot, waiting for maybe this lead battle to heat up for him to strike just a little under a second as they head off turn 4.
Ooh, Metters caught the wall that time around as Kirchenbauer now looks on the inside of Wilesinski into 1.
Kirchenbauer clear once again. That'll give Wilesinski the run down the backstretch into turns 3 and 4. We've seen him kind of just trade this back and forth, but Kirchenbauer will hold it tough on the outside again. Is he going to lead this time around? Not quite. Maybe just past the line. But it's going to be a tight one here as we continue to work past the halfway mark here from Iowa Speedway.
Yeah, Castro has fallen all the way down to 16th, currently fighting with Casey Lee in the 17th position. The last car is running on track. Not the kind of night Andre Castro has been hoping for. As Dylan Wilesinski has the low line into 3 and 4. Still holds the lead in that Get Good Racing machine. He's clear this time, slides up in front of Indy. But still giving plenty of room. This is good, respectful racing from these two drivers.
Yeah, of course, the two previous series champions, they know how to get it done in this IL-15. They have amongst them basically, at least I believe, over half the wins in the series here in the top split on the P1 Broadcasting Channel. So watching them duke it out for the lead is like watching Goliath versus Goliath. Such a battle were to exist. And they continue to battle here, working lap 42 of 65 here from Iowa.
Yes, and while they fight over the lead, Francisco is looking underneath Metters for the 3rd place spot. So it's just 2 by 2 for the top positions in the field. Francisco looks to have the move done on Metters.
That'll move Francisco to the 3rd spot for now. We'll see if Metters can get a bound of momentum as Kirchenbauer is going to try that move into turns 3 and 4 here on Wilesinski. He's going to scrub a little bit of speed and allow Wilesinski to keep that top side rolling. Indy will get the bottom here in 1 and 2, which we've seen be able to make passes, but he's not going to be having quite the run he's had, or clear rather, that he's had before. So they'll be side by side into 3 and 4, and they're just going for all they've got here. You'd almost think that the tires are out of the question at this point, Sophie.
Yeah, I would think so. We're working lap 45 of 65. Indy Kirchenbauer, the previous lap, touched the apron, and that kind of killed a lot of his momentum. This time it looks like he has Wilesinski cleared.
And Jesse Francisco slowly worked his way away from Ashton Metters. He's about a half second back of this battle for the lead here. As Clay Kirchenbauer has worked his way into the top 5 ahead of Sam Cosner, so Clay's doing something right here. Might be getting some more coaching from his kid here from the Iowa Speedway as we reach lap number 46.
And Indy Kirchenbauer, I mean not Indy Kirchenbauer, Dylan Wilesinski got the wall there, but we are under caution.
That's Clay Kirchenbauer, just as we mentioned him. He's got a meatball flags in the pit lane. Let's see what happened to him. So here he comes. I believe this is going to be off turn number 4 here. Oh, he's going to grab the outside wall.
And the outside wall kind of grabs him, and it looks like it's just eating that car, like he was stuck inside the wall there.
I'm wondering if maybe the dirty air from Metters ahead just caught him out that time, as he was running a bit higher than we've seen in 3 and 4 from a lot of the field here tonight. And it's just unfortunate to see that happen, because he was making a sizable charge through the field here. Could have kept it interesting had the race stayed green. But we'll get a yellow flag here. This will be Indy Kirchenbauer getting the point here on the restart. That'll be a change of pace. We'll see if he can do anything with this restart, as Vilashinsky has done the previous ones here tonight.
And a driver that has been very thankful for this caution here is Andre Castro. Castro was in danger of potentially going a lap down because of that damage, and now they can come in under this yellow, get it fixed, and maybe try and regain some of that ground. As in fact, we do see that Guinness machine coming down the pit lane, going to be stopping that number 2 pit stall. Currently taking the tight line, as we'll say here, through pit lane, and hopefully getting the front end of that machine replaced.
He'll hop up on the jacks.
In fact, that's exactly what we see, and Castro is down and away well before the pace car even gets through turn 4. So Castro stays on the lead lap, gets a new nose cone, and we know that he's a fast driver. So it should be very interesting, Jacob, to see him carve through the field.
Yeah, we'll see what he can do here as we're going to get to the final quarter of the race here as we work on to lap number 50 here from Iowa. Of course, they've got that corn cob painted on the start-finish line here. Fortunately, one of the ovals we lost this year from the Real World Indy NXT calendar here in the Iowa Speedway.
Well, we lost Iowa but gained Phoenix.
Well, no, we didn't in Indy NXT. We did in IndyCar. But unfortunately, the next machines lost out on at least one oval round. I can't remember if this was a doubleheader for them or not.
I believe it was, Jacob.
Not You in the chat is asking if Castro got new tires. No, there's no additional sets of tires in the pit lane. The reason his car goes up on the jacks is because they need to get it up on the jacks to replace the nose cone. There's like if it's like the IndyCar, I believe there's a pin in the cone of the nose that they have to be able to take out and then move the whole front wing assembly off and reattach it at the front of the car. So they need to get the car well enough away from the ground to prevent any scraping as they do that. Lights are out on the pace car here, Sophie, and this is going to be the first restart we haven't seen in the control of Dylan Vilashinsky. Let's see what changes up with that.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Vilashinsky would kind of push it just before the green flag was thrown. If I was Andy Kirchenbauer, I might be thinking about maybe going a little earlier than even Vilashinsky was going. Maybe just doing something a little different than what people might expect.
So here they come through turns 3 and 4. iRacing pace car will pull down, gives Indy Kirchenbauer control of the field for the first time here tonight. And he'll go a little bit later that time. Francisco.
But he gets a good jump on Vilashinsky. In fact, Francisco is all over Dylan Vilashinsky. This is the first time Vilashinsky's really been on the back foot in a restart in a long time, but he immediately kind of handles it very well. And now Ashton Metters is once again looking to jump on Jesse Francisco, who kind of got stacked up behind Dylan Vilashinsky at that restart.
Yeah, Andre Castro's already worked his way up to 13th. We'll keep an eye on him as he continues to try to charge his way through the field. The battle rages for third, however, between Jesse Francisco and Ashton Metters, drivers of the 16 and 3 machines, respectively.
Yeah, Andre Castro currently in the middle of a hornet's nest between the likes of Gary Yost and John Covington just ahead of him, kind of forming a massive wall. There's just nowhere for Castro to go to really gain track position.
And Dylan Vilashinsky went purple just a couple laps ago, 18.856, so certainly not scared of any potential pace loss in that number 2 machine, as he's gotten to within about 2/10 of Indy Kirchbauer at the point here, and we might still get another bound of battling here for the point here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we've seen, Jacob. The draft here is super powerful, and really, if you're in second place and you're not fighting alongside, you might as well just ride in the coattails of the car in front and have where they break the air for you, and it pulls you along.
And here comes the field as they work into turns 1 and 2 with just 9 laps following this one, I believe, as we work lap 56 of 65. Field spread out a bit better this time as Ashton Metters lingers about 3/4 of a second from leader Indy Kirchbauer, as Kirchbauer will tuck down to the bottom, try to maybe break the toe down the front straightaway here from Iowa. We'll see if anybody's able to make some moves as Giovanni Blackerby's worked his way up to the 6th spot, but he's under fire from Taylor Thurman, as I believe Jesse Francisco was looking for a move on Dylan Vilashinsky for the 2nd spot here.
Yeah, Francisco in that 16 car doing a fantastic job running in the 3rd place position and just really kind of making where Dylan Vilashinsky can't focus too much on the fight ahead. He's got to watch his mirrors. He's kind of having to think about how does he set up. Oh, he caught the wall there.
Yeah,
he's got to. Go ahead.
He had caught the apron, I believe, in turns 1 and 2 as well. Yeah, he's riding right on that white line in 1 and 2, so he might really be trying to get that car into the right clean air here. That's going to put him under fire from that 16 machine of Jesse Francisco properly now, as they're going to work off 3 and 4, and that's letting Indy Kirchbauer stretch his legs to about a half second away now, as Andre Castro has battled into the 9th spot, and he's just past Kevin Crotty for that position. He'll have Clay Holman ahead of him in that 21 machine. Shout out to Clay. He's the 21 machine of 21 tonight, so lowest I rating in the field, but he's making it look like he's got much more experience in this car, and now his 2nd outing, if I'm not mistaken. So shout out to him. Work our way back to that battle between Vilashinsky and Francisco for the 2nd spot here, as Indy Kirchbauer continues to pull away here from Iowa Speedway.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the thing that we don't normally see Dylan Vilashinsky in this position here in the Indy NXT, where he is trying to hunt down the leader while fending off a challenger. Francisco is really sticking his nose in on the bottom there, finding the clean air and kind of forcing Dylan to have to lift a little bit there. Really having to force it low there is Francisco. They're side by side through 1 and 2. Aggressive maneuver from Francisco to deal with the defensive driving of Vilashinsky. Doesn't come to anything, but he is right under the gearbox now. Vilashinsky goes all the way to the white line, now back up.
Yeah, here they come. White flag in the air. Francisco's going to jump to the high side here into turns 3 and 4. Is it going to be enough? Indy Kirchbauer will win.
Vilashinsky gets 2nd, Francisco in 3rd, Metters 4th, Osner is going to be in 5th.
Yeah, we'll wait for the field to roll around to the front stretch here, but very tight, close racing between the podium finishers here tonight. Obviously, we saw Vilashinsky and Kirchbauer go at it in kind of that middle stint there. We'll watch as Kirchbauer gets to the front stretch here and starts to burn it down here from the Iowa Speedway, and we'll run you through finishing results here from an action-packed thriller here in the cornfields of Iowa Speedway. And it will be Indy Kirchbauer victorious once again here in the Indy NXT Oval Series, taking the win over Dylan Vilashinsky. Jesse Francisco will round out tonight's podium over Ashton Metters and Sam Cosner, rounding out the top 5. Giovanni Blackerby gets a bit of a rebound from Long Beach last night. He'll finish 6th in the number 15. Taylor Thurman puts up a nice performance here in the 18 machine, finishes 7th. Clay Holman in that 21 machine will hold off a hard-charging Andre Castro for 8th. Castro will settle for 9th. Kevin Crotty will round out the top 10, and then we move to the rest of the top 20. Gary Yost, John Covington, David Powers, Ellis Spice, Casey Lee, Luca Tedesco will be the last of the lead lap finishers. We saw Clay Kirchbauer, Ryan A. Brown, Kelly Dahl, Jameson Russell, and Chris Wetz all face some sort of incident here tonight. And we'll get to talk to the podium finishers here from the Iowa Speedway and see what they have to say of what I think is one for the books here, Sophie.
For sure, Jacob. This was an incredible battle between Indy Kurtzbauer and Dylan Wieleszynski. And then, of course, even after that battle got settled, you had Jesse Francisco, a driver punching well above his weight, given that he was a 16 car in this field, giving the current reigning champion a run for his money there in the closing laps to hold on to second place.
And we'll actually get to talk to him for the first time in a little while here in the Indy NXT Oval Series. There's his number 16 machine. We'll get him up in the booth here momentarily. Jesse Francisco, Jacob Collins, Sophie Connell, P1 Broadcasting. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, I think this is at least your second trip here up on the podium in Indy NXT Oval Series competition. You're punching well above your weight once again, taking on the reigning series champion, Dylan Wieleszynski, trying to make that second spot yours with just a couple laps to go. Walk us through your thrilling race here from the Iowa Speedway.
Yeah, I made a lot more contact than I wish I did earlier in the race. I'm not sure if I actually had damage or not, but regardless, it was just kind of getting me out of rhythm, and felt bad for the guys I was hitting. But yeah, it was early in the run. I felt very loose. I had to bring my bars back, but again, you go to the front pretty quick once the tires wear. Yeah, towards the end of the race with just fighting with Dylan. Obviously, he doesn't make it easy on anybody to get by him, nor should he. But that was really fun, trying to just duking it out. In the end, he got me this time, but that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you talked about maybe some of the in-car adjustments you were making with those anti-roll bars from here, and it sounded like this was kind of an uncharacteristically loose-on-entry setup here for Iowa this week. Kind of walk us through maybe some of the things you figured out as this car progressed in terms of what you were able to get away with here in terms of what you're doing out there on track tonight.
Yeah, I think it was definitely loose in on at least in 1 and 2. In 3 and 4, honestly, kind of got a little bit more loose off, especially like during my qualifying lap, on my second lap, which is the money lap anyways. I was just kind of holding on to it on exit of the corner, trying not to spin out. So yeah, definitely very loose. But again, it trends tight very quickly, which is kind of just characteristic in iRacing in general. Normally you don't have a car that trends loose as the tires wear. So yeah, staying on top of your bars, making sure, because I actually had an instance earlier in the race that I went the wrong way on the bar on a restart and lost a spot because of it. Just got loose going in, like we were talking about. So yeah, staying on top of the bars was definitely key here earlier in the run. Yeah.
And that's certainly one of those things that kind of keeps you on your toes each and every lap here, especially at a track like Iowa where you're traveling with quite a good click underneath you. Sophie, you got anything for Jesse tonight?
Well, Jesse, you talked about how you lost that position on the restart, but you obviously got it back and then some. How difficult was it here to set up a pass? We saw you those last couple of laps really working over Dylan. So how difficult was it out there?
I think part of it has to do with like the clean air ahead of them or how dirty the air is. I mean, obviously, for a little bit there, where we're like 2x2, sometimes you can make a pass work a little bit easier just because you both are in the same air, so you can. So both the top and bottom could work for you. When it's when you have one car in front of you, or when it's especially in a clean track, Dylan and I were talking about it in the waiting room. It's tough to make a pass in clean air when the car in front of you has clean air. But yeah, just managing that, knowing if you're in dirty air, knowing not to overstep yourself, and knowing how to manage it.
Well, you managed it well enough here tonight to score yourself another podium finish here in the Indy NXT Oval Series. Jesse, you know the drill. Friends, family, sponsors, anybody to like shout out, floor is yours.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you guys at P1, put on a great broadcast. Got some buddies who I was talking to throughout the race, so a big shout out to them.
Well, thank you for joining us once again. We'll hopefully catch you out next week as the series heads to the track too tough to tame, Darlington.
It'll be a fun one. Looking forward to it.
As are we. We'll hopefully catch you there. Go celebrate.
Awesome. Appreciate it, guys.
That'll do it for third place finisher. Jesse Francisco will get his late race rival and Dylan Vilashinsky on up here. Dylan, Jacob Collins, Sophie Connell, P1 Broadcasting. Got us?
Got you loud and clear.
Well, you led the early stage of this race, as is kind of typical for you to do, but then Indy was able to kind of reel his way into that battle for the front and get the lead on that late race restart, and didn't look like there was much of a challenge left to be had past a certain point of this race. Kind of walk us through some of the challenges, the trials, and the tribulations here from the corner field.
With us battling side by side like we were both killing our tires, like just like heating them up, super heating them, trying to hold side by side. It got to the point where when he finally did get by me, if I didn't try and get below him as quick as I could, I was going to end up probably falling back like I ended up doing. That yellow came out at a really unfortunate time for me, because if I had been ahead, I think I could have been able to hold him off on the restart. But with how I had just been abusing my fronts trying to hold that low line most of the time, when we got going again in that dirty air, I just could not keep up with him, and then I was just basically fighting for second.
Yeah, we kind of made a quick jab at the fact that you guys were fighting so hard. We had kind of figured that you guys were throwing the tires out the window, just hoping that it would turn into a one-on-one battle all the way to the end. But unfortunately, that late race yellow kind of caught everybody out and reset the field. And then you wound up in a tough battle with Jesse Francisco that it looked like you guys were trying to find anywhere on the track to put one another to come out on top. Walk us through that one here from Iowa.
Well, I think it was like 10 or something to go like that when I kind of got to the point where I realized, like, all right, I ain't going to catch Indy. I ended up catching the wall off before and got wheel damage. So then it was like, okay, well, I ain't going to fight for the win, try to hold on the second. And I was really slow in 3 and 4. I had to do a big lift just to get it to rotate. And every time I come off of 4, Jesse would be like right on my rear end trying to send it. So I did 1 or 2 moves that might be a little questionable, but I think we both got away with it.
Yeah, it was kind of wall-to-wall action here, much like we saw last night from Long Beach on the streets. Certainly quite the brawl here between you two late in the going. Sophie, you got anything for Dylan tonight?
Well, Dylan obviously mentioned that you had some wheel damage. How much does that affect this car on the ovals? Was that really affecting your driving style, how the car was behaving on entry or on exit?
You just lose speed with an understeer. Like in 1 and 2, I don't know what the difference is with the banking. Maybe there was like some wind or something that was helping, but I could take that pretty much no problem. But then when we get into 3 and 4, I just couldn't keep the front end under me, like at the midpoint to 3/4 mark of the corner, and I'd have to lift off a little bit to keep it rotating to avoid the wall and making it worse. That's what happens a lot if you get front damage. It just adds understeer.
Yeah, certainly kind of adds to that tightness condition. You know, we talked with drivers talking loose in 1 and 2 and then kind of loose off in 3 and 4. So I imagine you kind of get thrown off a little bit when the car doesn't quite handle the way you were expected to as the race developed. But you put up a solid result here, finishing P2 here once again on the podium for you here, Dylan. You know the drill. Friends, family, sponsors. Anybody like to shout out? Floor is yours.
As usual, shout out to Get Good Racing and shout out to the Sprint Car Cup. They run 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday.
Well, we'll certainly thank you once again for joining us up here in the booth, Dylan. We'll hopefully catch you out next week as we take on the Darlington Raceway for week number 6.
All right, I'll see you guys next week. That race is going to be crazy, I think. That's going to be a good one.
Yeah, it was certainly a brawl when we tested the track out to get it onto the schedule here this season, so we'll hopefully have a great one next week. We'll catch you there, Dylan.
All right, have a good one, guys.
That'll do it for P2, and I'm going to hope we've got a happy Indy Kirchbauer, because it seems he's only content with winning, but he might want to win even more than he can. Oh, we've got Dylan, or Indy rather. We got Indy probably talking to Dylan here.
Yes.
Up in the booth. Well, Indy, you've got us here clearly, so we'll kind of rattle into the questions here. You started on the 3rd row, had to work your way into that lead battle kind of in the middle stage of the race here. Walk us through some of the things you were figuring out here from Iowa, as obviously you've kind of been in these lead battles here, Iowa, the last couple times.
Yeah, I didn't think that I knew I screwed up my cue right when I ran, and at least I got 5th. I had a rough restart, so I was 6th coming out of turn number 2, and and I just was able to make moves on cold tires. I figured something out with kind of the lines and the bars on cold tires to really pick up positions, and I knew it was going to be harder at the end to pass, so I decided to go all out at the start, and that ended up paying off. And then that side by side with Dylan was very fun. I think that that was. I don't say this too often, but I definitely had more fun in this race than the IndyCar race tonight. So yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, it certainly kind of reminded us of races we've seen at the likes of Motegi here at Iowa in previous iterations, and it looked like it very much came down to a battle of who got the lead at the right place at the right time between you and Dylan, and then ultimately you come up on top of that and get that late race restart. But we've seen that kind of throw people off at a track like Iowa here, where those trailing cars can get huge bounds of momentum on those restarts and work their way back into a battle with you. Kind of walk us through maybe some of the things that you were thinking in the back of your head on that late race restart here tonight.
Yeah, I didn't think I was gonna be able to pull away from him, so I just thought that he was gonna be able to get up to me and we were gonna go side by side again, and I was debating what lane I should defend and when to defend it and all that, and then I was able to get pretty lucky there and pull away, and Jesse trying to get P2 definitely helped me, because he was gaining at one point, and yeah, I hope that one was a good one for the broadcast. Well, I know it was a good one for the broadcast, and yeah, that was really fun. So I will definitely, and I think Darlington will next week will also be another insanely fun one. So definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, certainly a quite the battle to watch at the front of the field. We had good battles all throughout the field, so that made it even more interesting from the booth here tonight. Sophie, you got anything to add for Indy tonight?
Well, Indy, obviously, we heard from Dylan about how the battle between you two kind of took a toll on his tires. Did that have any impact for you? Were you finding that the handling of your car was kind of going away? And thankfully, obviously, Dylan had to worry about Jesse Francisco. But were you at all worried about the state of your Firestone tires?
I was a little bit. I know I got the tire warning while doing burnouts, so I'm guessing it was around 45 to 50% on the right rear. So I think I definitely was having some. I just didn't burn it as much as Dylan because I was on the outside and early, so even though he was leading, he's having to turn the wheel more, scrub more tires. So, yeah, I think that obviously that was a really fun race, and I am looking forward to the next time we go to Iowa, which will be the season opener of season 3.
Yeah, certainly one we'll be looking forward to. We'll go kind of flip-flopping the times here. We'll get further back in time with that 2011 scan to open off Season 3 of 2026. But we've got a lot left to go here in Season 2, but you take a win. That's good momentum for you here in the championship battle. You know the drill. Friends, family, sponsors. Anybody like to shout out? Floor is yours, Indy.
Yeah, my go-kart sponsors are BGM Marine Associates, Fremont, Bayside Comfort Heating and Cooling, Make Something on YouTube, and thank you for putting on the broadcast, and just thank you to everybody watching at home on P1. It's a great race, and yeah, just thank everyone for showing out for the Indy next races, and we'll be looking forward to next week at Darlington. I think that will be a top 3 race of the season.
Yeah, certainly
as well.
Certainly one we'll be looking forward to as a brand spanking new track to the Indy NXT Oval Series. We'll catch you there, Indy, and throughout the rest of the season here on P1.
Yep. I'm looking forward to it.
That'll do it for Indy here tonight. And Sophie, we had ourselves quite the race here from the Iowa Speedway, as Iowa Speedway tends to do every good while and then some. And we're in for a treat as we'll take on another brand new track in the Darlington Raceway next week. That's going to be quite the interesting one. The 1 1/3 mile track, too tough to tame. It's going to be quite the spectacle here in Indy NXT competition.
Yes, like here at Iowa, it is a track that has a limited number of lanes or a limited width to it that is viable. I believe the story with that track is that its outer, steeper banked area was originally supposed to be like a safety lane if you had issues to pull off on, but then everyone realized it was much faster. So be curious to see if we get great racing in the narrow confines of Darlington.
It was certainly an instance in which we could get cars fairly easily 2x2 as we were working through trying to figure out just how easy it would be to race at that very tricky Darlington Raceway. Of course, turns 3 and 4 much narrower than the likes of 1 and 2 because they had to dodge, I believe, a tadpole or a minnow pond that's kind of right off the property there. So that adds another factor, and it's kind of smack dab in the middle of our schedule as we'll be taking on the 3 eggs, if you will, as we open up the season at Motegi. We'll be running Darlington right in the middle, and we'll round out this season with our trip to Worldwide Technology Raceway in Gateway. We'll thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We'll thank all those that do the difficult jobs all around the world that let us bring you things that we love to do, like Indy NXT coverage here on P1 Broadcasting. We'll be back next week with Indy NXT Road Series action from the Nürburgring Grand Prix course, and then the Indy NXT Oval Series will take on the aforementioned Darlington Raceway. We'll catch you there or anything else here on P1. Have a good night, everybody. See you next time.